In the heart of Central Asia, a shocking murder case has gripped the nation, turning a courtroom into a dark reality show. The stage for this macabre drama is Kazakhstan, where former Minister Kuandyk Bishimbayev stands accused of an unthinkable crime: the brutal murder of his wife, Saltanat Nukenova. Just last November, 31-year-old Nukenova was found lifeless in a restaurant owned by a relative of her husband. The couple had spent the previous night and almost the entirety of the day at this location. The chilling details of the crime have been laid bare in court, with the proceedings being live-streamed for thousands to witness. A spectacle that has turned the Supreme Court into a stage for a real-life horror show. Bishimbayev, once a respected figure in the political sphere, now stands in the dock, charged with the savage beating that led to his wife's death. The evidence presented in court is nothing short of harrowing, a grim testament to the horrors Nukenova must have endured. The footage reveals a side of Bishimbayev that's far removed from his public persona, as he's shown assaulting his wife outside the restaurant, dragging her around by her hair, and delivering a powerful blow to her jaw. This is not just a trial, but a dissection of a heinous act of domestic violence, played out for the world to see. The Supreme Court proceedings live-streamed on social media have drawn in thousands of viewers, each one captivated and horrified by the unfolding narrative. It's a dark reality show with the fate of Bishimbayev hanging in the balance. As we delve deeper into this case, we'll untangle the web of lies, deceit, and violence that surrounds it. We'll explore the crime scene, the disturbing phone call, the autopsy report, the charges, the defense, and the shocking revelations that have come to light. This is no ordinary trial, but a chilling display of domestic violence that has shocked and captivated the people of Kazakhstan. The horrifying ordeal unfolded at a restaurant owned by a relative of the accused, where the couple had spent almost a whole day and the previous night. This establishment became a nightmarish stage for the final act of Saltanat Nukenova's life, a chilling scene that would later be dissected in court. The court was presented with shocking footage, capturing the harrowing moments of abuse that Nukenova endured. The camera, a silent and impartial observer, recorded the former economy minister, Kuandyk Bishimbayev, in a violent frenzy. He was seen repeatedly assaulting his wife, a slender young woman dressed only in a coat and boots. The brutality of his actions was clear as he delivered powerful blows, kicks, and dragged her around by her hair. The footage didn't just capture the physical violence, it also revealed a chilling psychological aspect of the attack. Nukenova, in her desperation, tried to find refuge in a bathroom only for Bishimbayev to break down the door. What makes this even more disturbing is that the restaurant staff were allegedly instructed not to call emergency services and to delete the CCTV footage. This suggests a premeditated attempt to cover up the crime, adding another layer of darkness to this already grim tale. As the night wore on, Bishimbayev didn't call for medical assistance for his severely beaten wife. Instead, he reached out to a fortune teller who assured him that Nukenova would be fine, but she wasn't. She lay on the floor, the life slowly ebbing away from her, while the ambulance that could have possibly saved her life was only called 12 hours later. By the time medical staff arrived, it was too late. Nukenova was declared dead at the scene, her life cut short at the tender age of 31. The evidence presented paints a gruesome picture of the last moments of Nukenova's life. It's a chilling reminder of the violence that unfolded that night, a violence that has shocked thousands and sparked a nationwide conversation in Kazakhstan. As Nukenova lay on the floor, covered in her own blood, Bishimbayev made a disturbing phone call. Rather than dialing the emergency services, the former minister reached out to a fortune teller. Yes, you heard it right, a fortune teller. It remains a mystery why Bishimbayev, a man of power and influence, would resort to such an unconventional route in the face of a life-threatening situation. Was it a desperate attempt to deny the horrific reality of his actions, or a calculated move to buy time? We may never know. The fortune teller, oblivious to the gruesome scene that had just unfolded, assured Bishimbayev that his wife would be fine. She promised him that despite the brutal assault, despite the blood pooling around Nukenova, she would pull through. Tragically, this couldn't be further from the truth. The next few hours that followed were an agonizing wait. Time seemed to stretch out endlessly, each passing minute a damning testament to Bishimbayev's horrific actions and his shocking indifference to his wife's suffering. Remarkably, it took Bishimbayev a staggering 12 hours to finally call for an ambulance. 12 hours of delay that could have made a difference between life and death. 12 hours of inaction that would soon come to haunt him in the courtroom. But why such a delay? Was it fear of the consequences, an attempt to clean up the crime scene, or a desperate hope that his wife would miraculously recover, as the fortune teller had promised? Again, we may never fully understand the rationale behind Bishimbayev's decisions on that fateful day. When the ambulance finally arrived, the paramedics found Nukenova lying motionless on the floor, her life cruelly snuffed out by the man who was supposed to protect and cherish her. Despite their best efforts, it was too late. Nukenova was declared dead at the scene. On that tragic day, the silence of Bishimbayev's phone call echoed louder than any distress signal could have. It was a chilling act of indifference that would soon become a focal point in one of Kazakhstan's most gripping murder trials. When the ambulance finally arrived 12 hours later, it was too late. Nukenova was declared dead at the scene. The autopsy report unveiled a grisly truth. Nukenova succumbed to brain trauma, bearing evidence of severe physical abuse. This chilling revelation opened up a new dimension to the case that was already sending shockwaves through Kazakhstan. The details of the report painted a horrifying picture of the last moments of Saltanat Nukenova's life. According to the coroner, the cause of death was brain trauma, the kind that is typically associated with a severe blow to the head. This finding was consistent with the video evidence presented in court, which showed Bishimbayev delivering a powerful blow to Nukenova's jaw. But the brain trauma wasn't the only evidence of abuse found during the autopsy. The report also noted a broken nasal bone, suggesting that Nukenova had been hit in the face with considerable force. This detail too corroborated the footage of Bishimbayev assaulting his wife. In addition to the broken nasal bone, the coroner found numerous bruises on Nukenova's body. These weren't just minor injuries. They were severe enough to suggest that Nukenova had been subjected to a sustained assault. The bruising was consistent with the court footage, showing Bishimbayev repeatedly kicking and punching his wife. As the report was read out in court, it seemed to leave no room for doubt about the nature of the crime. The findings provided a clear and horrifying snapshot of the physical abuse Nukenova had suffered. The autopsy report, with its grim details, was a crucial piece of evidence in the trial. It shed light on the brutal treatment that Nukenova had endured, and it provided a stark contrast to Bishimbayev's claims of innocence. The evidence was clear: Nukenova had been subjected to a brutal and sustained assault. Bishimbayev now faces charges of torture and murder with extreme violence, charges which could see him locked away for up to 20 years. The charges against him are severe and reflect the horrific nature of the crimes he's alleged to have committed. This isn't a case of a simple argument gone wrong. This is a case of prolonged, brutal violence. The former minister, once a respected figure in Kazakh society, now stands accused of the unimaginable. The charges paint a chilling picture of a man who, over the course of 8 hours, allegedly subjected his wife to a relentless assault that ultimately ended her life. Torture and murder with extreme violence. It's a charge that carries a heavy weight. It implies a level of cruelty and malice that goes beyond the norm, even for such grave crimes. These charges suggest Bishimbayev didn't just kill his wife, but that he did so in a way that was particularly brutal and merciless. If found guilty, Bishimbayev could face up to 20 years in prison. That's 2 decades behind bars, away from the halls of power, away from the wealth and influence he once wielded. It's a punishment that reflects the severity and the depravity of the crime he's accused of. But it's not just about the potential sentence. It's about the message it sends. It's about showing that no one, no matter how powerful or influential, is above the law. It's about justice for Saltanat Nukenova, a young woman who lost her life in such a horrific manner. Yet the path to justice is not always straightforward. Even with the damning evidence against him, Bishimbayev is not going down without a fight. He's mounted a vigorous defense, challenging the medical evidence and even attempting to paint Nukenova as the violent one. Despite the evidence against him, Bishimbayev has pleaded not guilty. As the trial continues, we wait to see if justice will be served. In a desperate bid to avoid conviction, Bishimbayev and his lawyers have put forth a shocking defense. Bishimbayev, who stands accused of the brutal murder of his wife, Saltanat Nukenova, has pleaded not guilty. In a twist that has stunned the courtroom, his legal counsel has argued that Nukenova's death was not a result of the former minister's actions, but rather they claim she died from self-sustained injuries. This defense hinges on the assertion that Nukenova was a volatile and jealous individual, prone to fits of self-harm. They argue that the physical injuries found on her body, the broken nasal bone, the multiple bruises, were all inflicted by her own hand. They paint a picture of a woman consumed by jealousy, driven to such extremes that she would harm herself and then blame her spouse. This narrative attempts to shift the focus from the harrowing footage of the assault to a portrayal of Nukenova as the architect of her own demise. The defense has also challenged the medical evidence presented in court. They dispute the coroner's report that attributes Nukenova's death to brain trauma resulting from severe physical abuse. They suggest instead that the injuries could have been self-inflicted during a fit of self-destructive rage. These claims have been met with skepticism and outrage, both in the courtroom and among the public. Critics argue that the defense is simply trying to victim blame and divert attention from the damning evidence against Bishimbayev. They point out that the video footage clearly shows Bishimbayev assaulting Nukenova, and the claim that she could have inflicted such severe injuries on herself is implausible. This defense, seen by many as a desperate attempt to evade justice, has only added fuel to the fire of public outrage. The trial has gripped the nation, with thousands following the proceedings on social media, and the shocking revelations have made it a dark spectacle. As the trial continues, the people of Kazakhstan wait with bated breath for the verdict. As the trial unfolds, a series of shocking revelations have emerged. And talk about a seismic shock, the courtroom was left speechless at some of the startling facts that came to light. A chilling example of this was the evidence that the restaurant staff were instructed not to call emergency services, even as Saltanat Nukenova lay on the floor, her life ebbing away. Now imagine the scene: a woman brutally beaten, lying on the floor in desperate need of medical attention, and yet, instead of dialing for an ambulance, the staff were allegedly told to delete the CCTV footage to wipe away the visual evidence of a heinous crime that was unfolding right before their eyes. And who gave this order, you might ask? The testimony points towards none other than the accused, Kuandyk Bishimbayev. It's a revelation that sends shivers down your spine, isn't it? The sheer inhumanity of it all, the cold, calculated steps taken to conceal the crime rather than provide aid to a dying woman. And then there's the fortune teller, this elusive character who was called upon not for guidance or clarity, but to provide a false sense of reassurance. A fortune teller who, over the phone, assured Bishimbayev that his wife would be fine, despite not being there to assess her condition. A chilling testament to the lengths Bishimbayev was willing to go to avoid responsibility. These revelations raise a myriad of questions. Why delete the footage if there was nothing to hide? Why call a fortune teller instead of an ambulance? And why, oh why, would someone not help a woman in desperate need of medical attention? The answers to these questions remain locked within the walls of that restaurant and the minds of those who were present. These revelations have only served to deepen the intrigue surrounding this shocking case. The plot is thickening, the stakes are rising, and the world watches on, waiting for justice to be served in this harrowing tale of violence, power, and shocking revelations. As the trial comes to a close, the people of Kazakhstan anxiously await the verdict. The suspense hangs heavy in the air, a palpable tension that extends far beyond the confines of the courtroom. The fate of Kuandyk Bishimbayev, a man once revered as a pillar of the community, now hangs in the balance. The charges against him are grave, the evidence damning. The video footage, the autopsy report, the chilling phone call to a fortune teller instead of medical aid. Each revelation has been like a punch to the gut, leaving the nation reeling and questioning the man they once knew. The implications of this verdict are immense, not just for Bishimbayev, but for the entire country. Will justice be served, or will the scales tip in favor of power and influence? These questions swirl around like a blizzard, obscuring the path to truth and justice. If found guilty, Bishimbayev faces up to 20 years in prison, a sentence that seems almost insignificant compared to the life that was brutally stolen. Saltanat Nukenova, a woman in the prime of her life, reduced to a tragic headline in a gruesome tale of violence and betrayal. Yet, if acquitted, the implications could be even more chilling. It would set a precedent that those in power can act with impunity, that they can escape the consequences of their actions. It would be a blow to the very concept of justice, a painful reminder of the inequality that persists in society. As we wait for the verdict, the courtroom is a sea of anticipation. The judge's gavel stands ready, a harbinger of the fate that awaits Bishimbayev. The jury, the guardians of justice, hold the power to shape the narrative that will emerge from this trial. No matter the outcome, this case has already left a lasting mark on the people of Kazakhstan. It has exposed the dark underbelly of power, the horrific potential for violence and cruelty. It has sparked conversations about domestic violence, about justice, and about the role of power in society. The shadow of this case will linger long after the verdict has been delivered, a haunting reminder of a tragedy that has shaken a nation. In the aftermath of the trial, the people of Kazakhstan grapple with the shocking revelations and the grim reality of domestic violence. A chilling silence hangs over the nation as they confront the brutal death of Saltanat Nukenova, a young woman who suffered in the hands of a man she should have been able to trust. The trial of former Minister Kuandyk Bishimbayev didn't just expose the monstrous acts of one man, it shed light on a much larger systemic issue. The underbelly of society, where power often shields perpetrators and leaves victims voiceless, was laid bare for all to see. The case has sparked outrage, triggering heated discussions and debates across the country. People are questioning the societal norms that have, for so long, normalized such brutality behind closed doors. The public's perception of domestic violence has been shaken to its core, pushing them to demand justice and change. Media outlets, both national and international, have been flooded with reports and discussions about the case. The public's outcry has been deafening, their demands for justice echoing through the corridors of power. The case has been a wake-up call, a brutal reminder that silence and inaction can no longer be the response to such heinous acts. The tragedy has also led to a renewed call for stronger laws and stricter enforcement to protect victims of domestic violence. Activists and concerned citizens are rallying for change, demanding better support systems for victims and harsher penalties for perpetrators. The case has stirred the collective conscience of the nation, pushing them to introspect and act. The shocking case of Saltanat Nukenova may be over, but its impact continues to ripple through the society. It's a story that has forced a nation to confront its darkest secrets, to question its values, and to demand change. The hope now is that the tragic loss of Saltanat becomes a catalyst for that change. As the nation comes to terms with this shocking case, the hope is that it will lead to lasting change. This case has shocked the world, exposing a dark reality that is often hidden behind closed doors. It has brought forth a litany of shocking revelations, painting a picture of a horrifying crime scene and subsequent trial that has gripped the nation of Kazakhstan and beyond. We've seen the former economy minister Kuandyk Bishimbayev accused of a brutal assault on his wife, Saltanat Nukenova, resulting in her tragic demise. The horrific images and testimonies presented in court have left an indelible mark on all who have followed the trial. From the disturbing phone call to a fortune teller to the damning autopsy report revealing the true extent of Nukenova's injuries, each revelation has been more shocking than the last. We've witnessed the audacious defense launched by Bishimbayev's legal team, attempting to deflect blame onto the victim herself. And we've seen the relentless pursuit of justice by the prosecution, aiming to hold Bishimbayev accountable for his actions. But this case is more than just a shocking tale of violence and deceit. It has broader implications. It lays bare the deeply rooted issue of domestic violence that plagues societies across the globe. It exposes the impunity often enjoyed by those in positions of power and the lengths they will go to maintain their status. Moreover, it highlights the critical role of the media and public scrutiny in demanding justice. The live streaming of the trial has allowed thousands to bear witness to the proceedings, sparking widespread discussion and outrage. This level of transparency and public participation is a crucial tool in holding power to account. As we reflect on the horrific events that unfolded, we are reminded of the urgent need to address and combat domestic violence, not just in Kazakhstan, but worldwide. Let this case serve as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of such violence and the need for systemic change to ensure justice for all victims.